At CDTM, we care a lot about sustainable and ethical development of businesses. And that's exactly what we're asking the question: how can companies, especially small and medium enterprises, align their ethics and their sustainability with their operations? Here, I'm very proud to announce the team Konvolut, who's building a more sustainable, who's building a solution so that SMEs can align their goals with the ESG performance. Welcome, Konvolut.
Welcome, everyone. Do you know what the Volkswagen diesel scandal, the human rights violations at the World Cup, and the Wirecard fraud all have in common? These three are prominent examples for failed ESG management. ESG is short for environmental, social, and governance. Three key indicators which are critical to our today's business world. And certainly, these images show us that ESG management is not a new issue for large companies. However, small and medium-sized enterprises, or short SMEs, are now on the focus of the regulator. In particular, there are 3 new laws upcoming which specifically focus SMEs and forcing them to actively manage and communicate their ESG efforts. The results of that are numbered at around 100,000 euros annually per company in costs, and over 17,000 companies are now either directly or indirectly impacted by these new regulations. But what is this ESG management all about, and what does it really mean for a company? I mean, it's a very abstract thing, right? So to understand this, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a German company, and let's just give it the name Void Manufacturing. Now, imagine one of their key customers has recently been subjected to these new upcoming regulations. As a result, this key customer now has to measure the ESG performance of their entire supply chain. And as a result, our company, Void Manufacturing, is forced to fill out an extensive ESG questionnaire. This means they have to go through dozens and dozens of internal documents, mails, and ERP systems, and they also have to contact their suppliers. But the moment this gathered information is sent back to the customer, it's nearly immediately outdated again. So whenever another external stakeholder, such as the regulator themselves, other customers, or banks and insurances are requiring this ESG information, they have to repeat this process again and again and again. So let's sum up what we just learned. ESG management for SMEs is just horribly intransparent. It's also annoyingly time-intensive and extremely repetitive. And last but not least, it's dealing with tons of sensitive company data. And being faced with all of these hurdles, the excitement and the actions of SMEs goes down, and the new regulations impose a serious issue for them.
But why so negative? I could easily name you 3 counter-positive examples. So first of all, Patagonia. Patagonia has a real environmental impact with their pledge to only use sustainable products. Secondly, Ben & Jerry's, a social brand. Why? Because they care about fair trade, non-GMO products, and social justice. Lastly, we have Stripe, a company with a real good governance rate. They are really transparent in culture, as all employees can view all the emails sent in the company. So here Konvolut comes into play. What is Konvolut? Konvolut is a data-driven platform now enabling you to handle your ESG management in your company. Well, how? The first thing Konvolut does is to connect to relevant data sources in your company. That would be ERP systems, mail scraping, web scraping, and to complete the whole database, also questionnaires. With this said, Konvolut then assesses your ESG performance and also provides action plans so that you can even improve your performances. You can then also export your performances to customers, regulators, and also investors. So remember the slide? Pretty sad, right? We can change this with Konvolut. Konvolut enables you to have an easy-to-use platform with automation and consolidation. It enables you to have an incremental change and therefore have a real impact. And Konvolut really cares about security, about your sensitive data. So let's just have a look, right? So imagine we are Voigt manufacturing, the first thing we see when we're using Konvolut is the overview page. Here we can see our overview scores in the respective fields: environment, social, and governance. At the same time, we already see that we have a warning. There's no code of conduct filed in the data system. So to change this, we would go to the governance page, as code of conduct is linked to this area. So by clicking here and coming to the overview page of the governance performance, we can see that we're looking to the internal area. So how is this company handling governance internally? We can see that we have different performance areas. So for example, stakeholders performance, company culture, management systems, and so on. Each area consists of subcategories. So for example, code of conduct. There's no code of conduct filed here, so 0 out of 5 points. To change this, we would go to the action plans. So what we can see here is that there's no action plan set in place yet, but we can change this super easily, just with a click. So now we just added this suggestion and have an action plan to create a code of conduct. So we're ready to go.
Thank you, Milana. And so with the functionalities that we've just showcased, Konvolut helps SMEs better understand the status quo of their ESG performance, plan and prioritize accordingly, and it does so helping them communicate in a very secure and privacy-ensuring manner. But what do we actually mean with secure at this point, and why is it so relevant to our context? Well, let's look at how a standard ESG platform would be handling the data of the customer. So the SMEs would need to upload their data to the platform's servers, which in turn would also be required to share this data to external stakeholders, whether it's customers or regulators. And throughout this process, SMEs lose ownership over the data, and this is a very major concern of theirs. So what Konvolut does is that it bases its solution on a specification called solid pods. And with those solid pods, SMEs do not have to upload their data anywhere. They just keep it on premise, which means in their own servers. And what they do is actually write access models to both the ESG platform, Konvolut, for instance, and the external stakeholders. And they can revoke this access at any time whenever needed. And with this, Konvolut ensures that SMEs have a very tight grip and governance over their data. Of course, the ESG market, software market, has been in place for quite a few years now, and there are solutions out there, mostly targeting big enterprise though, which we do classify as our indirect competitors. However, we're all aware that the ESG topic in general has been gaining traction recently, and so there have been quite a few startups active in the field as well. However, what makes Konvolut different from the rest is that it focuses on communicating in a very secure fashion with external stakeholders, combined with a highly automated software that's actually that defines a very holistic approach when it comes to ESG management. And with that, Konvolut becomes a powerful tool that specifically tackles the pain points and concerns of SMEs. It does so much indeed that it's actually offered into 3 different models. The first being the intra-company model that focuses on the ESG efforts of the company internally. The second being the supply chain model, which actually looks at the ESG performance throughout the supply chain of the company. And finally, the third model, which is a combination of both. Additional to the monthly fees that are incurred, we do also charge a setup and onboarding fee. But what's out there already, like what's been developed already, and how do we see our product moving forward? For this, I will hand over to Jacob.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah, let's take a look what happened so far. Until now, we have developed proof of concepts for the technologies that are underlying our system architecture. In particular, this refers to the solid pods that Serene described earlier, but also web scraping and text sentiment analysis that is critical for us to make a risk assessment. We also conducted over 50 interviews with relevant stakeholders and potential customers to really understand the pain points, and have built expertise in the team on the upcoming regulations, as well as the relevant ESG assessment criteria, so that we can really make an assessment of the companies. In the next step, we want to really focus on the product. Our goal is to launch the functional platform, the MVP, until the end of Q2 of this year. In order to do so, we are working on acquiring 6 pilot customers and build a strong product team so that we can develop this complex product and really make it market ready. Over the course of the next year, we really want to professionalize our product. To do so, we want to focus on making the data input as automated as possible, and this way, for every new customer, using Konvolut becomes even easier. Commercially, we want to reach over 100 customers, which would be reflected in up to 1 million in revenues, and really start scaling in the DACH region. This, however, is just the beginning. With our focus, we target the ESG software market for SMEs, sized at 400 million in the DACH region and 2.7 billion in Europe. The interesting thing, however, is that we connect to and integrate data. And with this, we can not only support SMEs in making more smart and data-driven decisions, but this is also highly relevant to external stakeholders. So investors, insurances, regulators, they have all been struggling with not having access to the data of a privately held company. By solving the conundrum of the intransparent SME, the extended market of software and data and ESG grows to over 6.5 billion euro. But yeah, who are we? This is our highly interdisciplinary, actually, can we have a bit less boring slide? Yeah, okay, better. Yeah, this is us. While we are interdisciplinary and have a complementary skill set, what really sets us apart is our way of working. So we really build on the values of trust and own, and communicate openly, and solve a problem. And based on this, we are building the future of data-driven ESG management, and are happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you. All right. Over there. The left hand. From my side left. So thank you for this question. The question was on solid pods and how this technology can really ensure security and privacy of the data. Serene.
All right, thank you. So solid pods is actually a specification. It was originally created by Berners-Lee, which is also known as the father of the World Wide Web. And it bases, the specification is based on web standards, which makes it very easy and nice for interoperability between different standards, for instance. And the way it enhances security by helping companies keep their data in pods or containers in a predefined standard way of saving the data, and then just like specify the access that they could or they want to give to external stakeholders. And that's through the SolidPod interface also made quite easy, and they can revoke this access whenever they want. So there is no need to actually upload data to any other external server. If you want to learn more about it, we actually have a very cool POC on our booth, so you can join us later on, and you can also see it in action. So looking forward to seeing you later.
All right. In the back with the bright shirt.
Yeah. Don't regulators and other stakeholders need to make kind of snapshots of the data of a certain point in time? And how can they do that with, or do they need to do this, and can they do this with solid pods to document that everything has been ESG compliant at a certain point in time and is not altered?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question. So the question related to if regulators have to make snapshots of the data, of the performance of ESG, and if that would not be possible with solid pods. Serena.
I will gladly take on the question. So the idea behind it is that SMEs actually do not want to send their own documents or have them laying on someone else's server somewhere in the world. And what the regulators actually require is reports. So that's a different thing. When you send a report to a regulator, usually it's also it focuses more on policies and less on the data sensitive or the sensitive data that the company has inside or the sensitive files. So that's a difference there.
All right, yes, here, front row.
How different are the setups and needs of these different SMEs, and therefore, like, how complex is it to onboard them onto your platform? Like, how much configuration and customization do you have to do for everyone, and how can you scale that?
So thank you for the question. It related to how different the requirements are based on the different SMEs and how high integration efforts would be. I can answer the question. There are very, very different SMEs out there and with different requirements and also different setups. With our platform, we target to have something in place that works with a minimum amount of input in the best way possible, and with every additional data source added that is integrated based on the systems that they use and the integrations that we offer, the data quality and the quality of recommendations will be enhanced. This way, we can start with a solution that is really possible to be used by everyone, and then with the increase in number of integrations is tailored to the specific requirements and systems that they use. Ah yeah, here. Thank you.
If somebody has a deep understanding of how your code works and how different things are contributing to a higher score, doesn't that incentivize companies to use certain keywords or certain other things on websites or other open media that are not documents from other companies or suppliers to get a higher score, and therefore your ranking gets way less of a contributing factor to good information quality?
So to repeat the question is if it becomes apparent or public what type of rating we use or what keywords we look out for to make a risk assessment, that companies can actively influence that while not making a change in order to have a better rating without changing anything. Did I understand that correctly? Perfect. Niklas.
Yeah, I can take that. So what we are actually doing is we are only offering an internal rating for the SME themselves. The real rating, what you're referring to and what the industry standard is done by partners, such as EcoVadis, for example. They are doing assessments on different company data and look and give you a rating, which you can also then usually use to go for an IP or different things. So the problem for these keyword analysis would rather lie at these partners who do the external assessment, and our platform is only steering to conform to the different regulations and to score good in these ratings. But this is, of course, an issue, but usually partners like EcoVadis also have humans then verifying that you're actually not only using these keywords, but actually have data and proofs that you are active and that you actually do something about your ESG performance.
Yes, here.
Thank you. That was a really insightful presentation. I looked at your data sources. It contains ARP, CRM, mail scraping, web scraping, and the question is, and I have a question, do you know where you want to start first? Because these are quite heavy extractors that you have to build, and especially for SMEs. All SMEs do not contain their data in the cloud. Mostly they use on-prem ERPs, and sometimes they're different ones. Sometimes they have data on paper at all. So where do you want to start?
So thank you for the question. It related to our data retrieval strategy in terms of, on the one side, that it is an extensive list of systems that we want to access and documents we want to retrieve, and on the other side, that those documents that are stored in systems are often on-premise and not easily accessible in the cloud. Niklas.
Yeah, so what we are doing here is we are doing like a step-by-step approach, and we really want to try to smoothly integrate into the company, saying that you can get started with our platform by just answering a couple of questions, and also the example which we saw implementing a code of conduct, that's assessment which we can do on just answering like a very, very short questionnaire. And then you have these action plans which shall help you to improve. And part of these action plans would be to connect to different systems like the ERP system. So it's a very incremental process where you as a company get more and more insight as you work with this platform. So the upfront work, what you're also referring to, is very small, and then you kind of incrementally grow in there.
All right, thank you so much. Handing back over to Franz.